Today's matchup. MVP. KONGDOO Monsters. SK Telecom T1. BBQ Olivers. Beginning of the end. 2018 League of Legends Champions Korea Spring Split.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2018, the first match day here at OGN for this week. And we are well and truly down to the business end. Tonight, we are going to find out whether or not KONGDOO Monster can keep their hopes alive or whether they're definitely going into relegation.
I mean, the trend downwards has been extended, Atlas, so it does seem like we finally be able to pronounce KONGDOO Monster as our first team locked into relegations, but hope springs eternal for perhaps the last time. If they lose today, mathematically, they are in relegations. They have no ability to get above 9th spot. So it's all about whether KONGDOO Monster can redefine what has been almost a record-setting negative trend with how many matches they've lost in a row. Yeah,
and MVP going up against them is an interesting situation, Pub Smithy, because at the start of the season, we had that 10-game loss streak from MVP. It was very impressive, and then KONGDOO Monster said, hold my beer. And then 10-match loss streak in a row. Only one game out of the entire 10 matches they've been able to pick up. But this is MVP. This is another team that has been struggling. They didn't look fantastic against Jin Air, although that was a relatively close series. And, of course, we're going to be assuming that MVP should be taking this, but if there's ever a time to poke your head back in to being able to win, it's right now for KONGDOO Monster.
I mean, in Australia, we have a pie brand 4-20. It's only been 1 win and 20 losses for KONGDOO Monster.
How can they get 3 wins
in
this game?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
A disaster. And when that's the sort of things that you need to talk about when you're talking about the positives for the squad, that's when you know things are going wrong. But they're not going wrong for Khan up towards the top side of the map, despite the fact that they had a rough time just in their most recent series. Rox Tigers really giving Kingzone a run for their money yesterday in what was a marathon for you guys over at Gangnam Stadium, Pub Smithy.
And even though the KDAs went down, there's still some very nice KDAs to quote for the likes of first Khan and now Peanut, who has come crashing down to earth. 10.5 going into yesterday's series.
Yeah, it was a bit sad. You look over and you're like, 8.2, that is gigantic, almost double his second place, but he was really rocketing up there. PDD doing the same thing. Kingzone really holding fast to the top of these KDA rankings, but they are going to take a little bit of a step back because in our next graph, Bang certainly has been killing a lot of people and not dying a whole lot of times.
And Prey and Gorilla did some sick feeding in some of those games, so
Gorilla
unfortunately,
does most of the sick feeding.
That's true. Then he did some great devouring on the Tom Kench with the laning phase.
That's true.
Game 2.
He's making use of his ability to feed.
Oh, it was something. But Bang, highest KDA in the league after Peanut took a nosedive. We'll be seeing him in our second series as SKT fans have watched on as a lot of their competition for top 5 has been losing recently.
Yeah.
SKT versus BBQ, perhaps getting SKT into 5th spot. And Mada, we'll be seeing him tomorrow. Excellent second series tomorrow. KT Rolster versus Kingzone could be a preview of our spring final, which was announced. It will be in Busan, not in Seoul, but in Busan by the beach. The Sajik Arena will be that grand final. That will be with Spo TV, so sadly OGN, only the wild card and the first quarterfinal this time will actually be the first ever final in Korea for champions that OGN has not broadcast.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad. I'm certainly a little bit sad about it, but I'm pretty psyched to be able to have a Busan holiday, Pub Smithy. I'm pretty psyched about that. Kuro, once again, back at the top of the MVP standing. You can see BDD chasing after him. If you cast your minds back to the end of last season, it was in fact Kuro and BDD that got that joint MVP, so we may have history repeating after what was a very interesting start of those MVPs.
But here's what we know. Kingzone and Afrika will play in playoffs. If Kingzone win tomorrow, they are guaranteed first and skip all the way to the grand final. Afrika will be top 5. KT's only 2 games behind, but theoretically, they lost their next 4 series 0-2. They would be eliminated, so they are playing for their own playoff spot. May be delayed until next week. All about SKT trying to make their way above Rox Tigers but we zoom in on the bottom of the table. Here's what happens. If MVP wins, KONGDOO, they're back to promotions, and they have actually never survived a promotion series. They've gone up, but they've never been able to stay in the LCK when they've fallen into relegations. If KONGDOO win, not much changes, but unfortunately they will still be a couple of series behind MVP in 8th place.
Yeah, we like to focus on the fact that KONGDOO Monster are very good at promoting themselves into spring splits. Unfortunately, they're also very good at relegating themselves out of summer splits. So see whether KONGDOO Monster can buck the trend, keep themselves in there, but it's looking like MVP have a shot of making sure history repeats itself.
And MVP, you look at the strength of schedule, it's real hard. FLICKR, KT, SKT. If they go on the miracle run and win all 4 matches, they can still make playoffs. It requires a couple of other results to go their way. But for a team that was 0-10, having even half a glass full 2 weeks before the end of the season is more than MVP fans could have been dreaming about a month ago.
Yeah, and we are going to load up the roster for MVP first up here, and you can see Pilot is once again going to be in Maha's position. Has looked better than his compatriot there on the bottom side of the map, and Max somehow finding the same synergy with a new player when him and Maha had been together for a very, very long time. The series against Jinair was an interesting one.
Cheerfuls today.
Yeah,
weird
cute.
And wonderful. Ian, of course, super popular with the Korean fans, and then we move over to ADD, wondering when we'll see his Swain again.
I know, he wants to preserve that 100% one-game win streak for as long as possible by the looks of things.
Here's a very easy thing to guess. On patch 8.5, we'd best be seeing a whole lot of Swain.
Yeah.
He's very strong on 8.5, pretty strong on 8.4. A team that has struggled, patch be damned, has been KONGDOO Monster, who has not won a series since 8.1 Atlas. That's how long ago that series victory was, their second of the season, actually over KSV. In a bit of a shock, they will be starting Yujun today, who still is without his first professional victory. We'll see if his first starting position can find them something.
Yeah, and if we have a look, we're in the second round robin, of course, because we're right at the very end of the season. And the first time these two teams met, it was a 2-0 for KONGDOO Monster, one of the 2 match victories that they've had, including, like you mentioned, the KSV win. But, oh it's pretty sad reading, isn't it? Oh,
well,
God.
They won 1 game in 20, well, in 21, I should say. 20 losses and 1 victory. Worst ever passage a team has gone on in terms of game score in LCK history. MVP, 1 more match, so their next match, they'll actually be away from the 0-10, which is the last games against KSV, into very respectable stuff for an MVP lineup that didn't strengthen over the offseason. Pilot coming in, the only change, and it has actually helped them. A 6 KDA for MVP is a very respectable one to look at, whereas otherwise, not really much to split the 2 teams.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad, but at least Pilot's turning it into a bit of a tennis racket. And we always like to talk about these graphs, so MVP trying to claw their way back in, and I really like it. It's sort of like the representation of the fact that Pilot coming into the roster has really turned things around for this team, because those KDAs were getting that was a tiny little peanut in the middle of the screen.
And we're a big fan of other Peanut. But
yes, he's very good at making very large outside runs of the KDA graph.
Like you mentioned, this Peanut, a bit of a cocktail Peanut, not too big, not really much going on there. KONGDOO Monster, we mentioned it already. They have qualified for LCK 3 times. They have finished 10th the last 2 times, and you know what? They're probably going to finish 10th again in LCK Spring. Too good for Challenger, not good enough for the LCK. It's not the title you want to have, but it's the title they've earned over the course of 3 years.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of the same teams, a lot of LCK teams being re-promoted into the LCK as well, and you mentioned Team Griffin from Challenger are looking damn good, Papa Smithy.
When you call them Team Griffin, I can only think of Peter Griffin.
I know, right? It's brilliant.
And now the Family Guy. But yes, Griffin 20-0. Posted a really cool clip of them with their Thresh and Skarner synergy. We have hyped up Challenger teams before, and CJ Entus famously were not able actually get into the LCK, but Griffin are looking like a different beast, even better than their good run in the Kesma Cup at the end of last year. And look at the key position. Tricky to pick one, but it is going to be the top lane. I gotta say, ADD's Gangplank has also impressed me, so Gangplank priority, even on patch 8.4, could be very high.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of players actually struggle a lot on the Gangplank, almost proving the fact that those nerfs have been a little bit too much. Of course, barrel duration and the mana cost of his Q being taken down a peg, along with all the kleptomancy nerfs and things like that that happened prior, have certainly put Gangplank into what feels like a less powerful position when he was almost pick or ban for a little while there. You can see 2 wins, 100% win rate for anyone on KONGDOO Monster ever this season is impressive.
We'll see what the fans make of it all. MVP do have that bigger fan base, so I expect them to take it. They've also been in much better form, and 3/4 of people think that MVP will pick up the win here. Honestly,
I'm surprised there are 483 that actually believe KONGDOO Monster can take this one, to be honest.
Could be KONGDOO org fans, because KONGDOO have teams in other esports around Korea. But MVP do have the fan base advantage, understandably, with it being 8th versus 10th. We're not full here in Sangam, so if you're in Korea, please do come. We'll come say hello.
Come down, definitely. You will be able to find a seat. It's not standing room only. A few seats still are available. And here we are, into Champion Select for game number 1. MVP taking on KONGDOO Monster. And MVP, it was a bit of a heartbreaker against Jin Air, now trying to find some redemption, and KONGDOO desperately hanging on to their spot. In the LCK, who's the first ban going to be over MVP's side? Is the question. It looks like Varus is going to take a bit of a rest.
A lot of pinch on the 80 carry pool in patch 8.4. It's very top-heavy, it feels like, and the Sion Flex pick is still a thing. KONGDOO have both lost with and lost against the Sion, so had enough of that rubbish and just going to ban it away.
Yep, not going to deal with it. The triple flex over the side of MVP is something that they're pretty unique in having. Talia, though, is also going to be taken away from Edge. And there's the Zac ban against Beyond. Beyond actually having some very impressive performances on the blob in the jungle.
His Zac has been good, but his Sejuani has been better. It's 5-1 on the season on Sejuani. Feels like KONGDOO will have to double ban jungle, and that will leave Skarner available. So we'll wait and see what happens. The Olaf also is conspicuous
there's a lot of junglers
by being available. Roach will have his 12 games of Gnar no longer be extended to what could have been a lucky 13 for him. Who knows? And Gnar will be taken away.
I wonder whether this means Gangplank priority. Could be another reason, but Sejuani is standing out like a very sore thumb.
And the Olaf ban is interesting because actually Sejuani is one of the safest choices into Olaf, because she can just pop over a wall and say nope when he comes for the invade.
Yeah.
So the Sejuani is now there, and answer for KONGDOO. We'll see what Yujun wants to play, a bit of a different champion pool to some of his contemporaries. If it was Raze, it would be a Jarvan 4 time.
Well, Xayah is an option here. Rakan definitely not going to be picked over the side of MVP, as Caitlyn's actually going to be the priority here for KONGDOO. So stealing away from MVP. In fact, their last game that they had, they were running the Ryze and the Caitlyn. But Edge taking that one away from Ian does make some sense, because Ian, he's got about an effective champion pool of 3 champions at the moment, if we exclude Zoe on this patch.
He might have them all banned because Xayah Rakan time on the blue side, but no, they actually consider their options and realize, okay, if we go Xayah Rakan, that effective champion pool will be gone, so they'll reach for the Azir. And that
Tristana is available.
It is available, but you're already very heavily countered by the Caitlyn, so you'd need a strong support around it. So I'd like to see KONGDOO ban away laning supports. A Thresh ban would be definitely recommended in this particular game, or just a Thresh takeaway for the side of KONGDOO. You get a support advantage as well, very hard to pull off the Tristana, even on patch 8.4 before her extra nerfs are there on patch 8.5 when it comes to the range. So they give up the Xayah Rakan dream to secure the Azir for Ian.
Yep, and I think that makes sense. Of course, we mentioned the fact that Ian, he's had success on a few champions. His Azir has certainly looked better and better as the season has gone on. And Yujun putting on his Raze mask as he locks away the Jarvan to go up against the Sejuani. Very standard stuff over the side of KONGDOO, but already giving themselves very strong lanes as far as getting that early priority, which makes a lot of sense here on this patch.
You'd think you want to put on a different mask when it comes to putting on a mask as a jungler.
No. He's putting on the Raze mask from those 2 matches that they won, and that sick level 3 gank that he managed to come out with.
His level 2 ganks are even better, Atlas.
Oh, so yeah, see?
Let's see if there will be some gimmicky stuff in the mid lane, because Jarvan and Ryze have a lot of pressure at level 2.
And
EW.
A champion that both of these supports have been favoring a lot is going to be taken away. Tahm Kench removed, Braum removed as well, and I like this. If you're an MVP fan and you're watching supports get removed left, right, and center, Max is like, yeah, you try and ban me out.
And that's the funny thing, is that we're talking about getting a strong support to help him against the Caitlyn and ostensibly the strongest meta support that I think KONGDOO would take away as the first pick on red side. Maybe that's when Max says, screw it, Zyra, Brand, something range to try to help the Tristana get through the laning phase. Top laners haven't been drafted yet, so the Gangplank will see a ban by KONGDOO. They want to first pick a support, so they don't want to first pick a Gangplank on red side.
I think that Janna is standing out a little bit at the moment as well. Max, of course, one of our last remaining range support players and does favor the Janna a lot when he's sticking to the more standard choices. Don't know how it is going to work up against the Caitlyn with the Tristana alongside.
Painfully.
Yes, definitely. But if you can weather the storm, it's a possibility. As you mentioned, the Thresh, and that's going to be taken away here by MVP.
They would love Thresh, but if it's Caitlyn Thresh together, they're just completely boned in terms of 2v2, so they had to ban it away. And KONGDOO will oblige and go for meta rather than necessarily domination in the 2v2. We'll see what this means for MVP. I would like to see a range support, so we'll see if they go that route. Alistar would certainly be an aggressive choice if they're going to get some ganking help, but it wouldn't necessarily give them as much lane power. So we'll see if Beyond will just make many visits bot lane, try to make this work, and they will go for the all-in duo that can certainly fall behind to a Caitlyn and Taric.
Yeah, if the Caitlyn and Taric can just play out the laning phase in the normal Caitlyn oppressive way, just don't see what the MVP bottom lane is going to be able to do. But now ADD, his Swain is available. He can go for that if he wants, but Cho'Gath would certainly be the more blind pickable option here. Still waiting to see what Roach is going to do, unless he's the one that's going to be playing the Rise.
And ADD is a great legacy Cho'Gath player. It's when that came back into the meta around summer season, that's how they managed to escape relegation, was ADD going from champions that didn't suit him to the Cho'Gath fitting his wheelhouse. So it's a big pick for ADD, even if it isn't the hype pick you're looking for. If you're a neutral fan, waiting on KONGDOO and Roach for the final pick here on red side into the Cho'Gath. A wealth of options, but most of the tanks will to some degree struggle against Cho'Gath, so the Ornn ends up being the choice. Strong engage, strong siege with the Caitlyn. Also play the sidelines.
Strong laning phase as well, can definitely farm out against the Cho'Gath. It's going to be one of those wet noodle fights that we've seen so many times. So yeah, I do like the strong engage options that KONGDOO Monster do have.
And it's nice to see KONGDOO not go for a very narrow win condition. They've been on a Scion duty and being outscaled. They've tried to outscale and lost the early game. This is a very flexible comp with strong engage, strong siege. Teamfights can go their way as well. It's a very balanced draft, but MVP have some good answers and also pose some good questions. I feel like Cho'Gath is in a very good spot in the laning phase. Tristana can scale up, and if they get to 3 items on Trist, I feel like Tristana and Azir could just take over the game. It's going to be on KONGDOO with the more options to actually find a way to get an advantage in the early game, which is, of course, been something that's eluded them for the majority of the season.
Yeah, and Pilot has, until recently, had one of the most incredible KDAs on the Tristana as well. We're sitting at 20 until his most recent match, where he's fallen to about 11 with the loss. See whether he's going to be able to channel his prior performances on the Tristana. Another thing I want to talk about MVP is their Baron secure, which is fantastic. Whenever you talk about MVP, you have to talk about Baron because they love going over there. They got fantastic 3-man Baron options as well, given the Cho'Gath and the Azir for the consistent damage. If they can keep farming out waves in the mid lane and do something sneaky, that is certainly an MVP thing to do. A lot of options here for both of these teams, and can KONGDOO Monster find their way towards a game victory? They've only had one other in very, very long time. We'll see whether they can do it as we head to the Rift. Oh, that guy was cheating. That was some amazing projection. We should get him up here into the caster booth.
Yeah, I've actually asked about some of the fans here. I believe the KONGDOO fan cheerleader is an employee of KONGDOO, but the MVP fans are just the most diehard ever.
Okay, I understand now. He's sort of yelling for a paycheck. Is that what you're saying?
Sometimes that's what you gotta do, Atlas.
Yeah, exactly.
We yell for a paycheck too.
Exactly right.
It's nice.
I was going for that one. Glad you picked that one up. Okay, Pilot hanging out down here towards the bottom side of the map as everyone's just setting themselves up. But normal defense, no Broms on the map this time, so no one getting frisky. And Beyond should have a decent time in the early levels. We'll see what Yujun can actually get done around this map, because I feel like KONGDOO Monster have a lot of very good options if they can get Sol to a decent position in the mid-game.
I mean, even if you zoom out a bit, we're seeing this Crystal Jarvan skin. That's a cool one.
Yeah, I like
Dark
that one.
Crystal Jarvan. No Dark Crystal Thresh to join him. But This is the sort of game where, if you look at the lanes as they stand, mid and bot lane are priority for KONGDOO Monsters. So you think, okay, Beyond will have to jungle around those lanes. When you think of KONGDOO Monster, you wonder, will there be the level 2 gank from Yujun, given that Ryze potentially can have a lot of gank assist?
We'll have some opportunities. Beyond as well. You can see a little bit of fighting on this bottom side of the map. No level 2s to be hit just yet, which is where MVP will most likely be exiting the lane.
And the lane priorities are very clear for both teams to know. They're very standard matchups. So the question is, do you jungle around where you're strong or where you're weak? And that's where we usually find out, and that can sometimes really send some teams through a loop. For now, bot lane, as we expected, doing very comfortably. Yujun going standard level 3 clear, rather than going for a buff to gank mid lane.
Yep, did actually take down those wolves, so not doing anything Raze-esque as far as that level 2 that you were talking about. Cute little rupture there from ADD, who has certainly been doing well. We've spoken about ADD in not as friendly terms in the past.
I mean, he had a pretty lean start to the season, we should be clear, but definitely has picked up the pace, and the Cho'Gath being back is a really big story for him.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that his Scion has made a huge resurgence, so needing to give ADD a lot more respect in the draft phase. Yujun already getting some counter jungling done down here towards the Krug camp.
He knows that the lane is going to push back out, and that might be a situation where they can look for an all-in. Now, if you mess it up, Alistair can certainly make you look silly, so we'll wait and see if he actually wants to go there. He just exits the jungle, happy to take his camp and leave. So far, it's just been about experience between the junglers.
Yeah, Beyond doing some detective work on the top side of the map here, and you mentioned playing around where you're strong, and Beyond certainly wanting to be up here, but it is going to be that camp trade. So no one getting that jungle advantage, and no vision available here to see what the Sejuani has been doing, so he's going to be safe. Roach will need to be a little bit careful, down to about half health here, but not going to be pushing out as ADD shoves forward, and Roach now discovers Little Miss Piggy in the jungle.
I guess with this slow start, we have a bit of time to do some cultural bookkeeping. It's the 14th of March. It's actually a very significant day here in Korea.
I only just learned about this as well.
So everyone knows about the 14th of April. That's all about Valentine's Day. In Korea, the tradition on Valentine's Day is that girls give guys the presents. That's the tradition for Valentine's Day. It goes against the standard Western trope.
Yep.
But a month later, on the 14th of March, it's known as White Day, which is the day where the men reciprocate. So go do your thing today, Atlas. You on point?
Yeah, look, no, because I accidentally thought that I was a woman, apparently. So I did all of my work on April, and, you know, I made the argument of gender equality being my reasoning, and
hey, look, whatever gets by your girlfriend is probably fine, right? So
no, I'm in the doghouse, man.
Well, we might see some doghouse.
Whoa, that was some real cute stuff from Max. Gets a headbutt exactly the right time as Flag and Drag just does some trading places. He'll just wander himself around the rock, and he's all fine. The 3v3 not going to be opted in for, as there's the back from Yujun. He's just going to go home. Okay, we almost had some action, but just not quite.
In a month, it will be April 14th, which is announced to be the LCK final in Busan. Ironically, also a day here in Korea. That'll be Black Day, actually, Atlas.
Yeah, so once I get broken up with my terrible ability to do White Day, I'll be able to celebrate Black Day.
It's very amusing. It's the day where single people kind of get together and be sad that they don't have a girlfriend and eat noodles. What a tradition.
I do like eating noodles.
I mean, Korea has a day for every occasion, apparently.
If you have a girlfriend, can you also eat noodles, or is that terrible? Is this just the day without noodles?
Maybe not that day. Maybe you have to go without noodles all day. No. Rice is pretty good too, Atlas.
Hey, that's true. I mean, there are other options, but as soon as you can't have something, that's when you want it.
I just like how there's 2 days of celebration for being in a relationship and 1 day of commiseration for people who aren't in a relationship. It's great.
And I'm just being the jerk that's like, but I won't eat noodles on that day anyway. Oh, terrible.
Hipster noodle eater.
Yeah. That's how it works. Okay, Roach still up here building his own stuff.
It's still not interesting to talk about the game.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, something actually happened and you're still just like, well, and then there's also this day. It was almost interesting. The Flag and Drag headbutt thing was funny.
Is that your back-of-the-box quote for the first 10 minutes of MVP versus KONGDOO Monster? It was almost interesting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I wasn't gonna exactly announce it like that.
You just said it. It was an actual quote.
If it wasn't on the back of the box. Like you say, you can see the box right here. There's no quote in the back of it.
There's no boxes anymore, really. The video games, I guess.
Oh, no, it's so sad. Max taking a lot of damage down here. Almost had to talk about it, but he's just going to wander away.
I must admit, when I buy a video game and I get a download code in a box, I feel pretty bad.
Hey, it's better than like getting no box at all. I mean, that's what happens now.
Digital media is still good, I guess.
But it never feels like you get a new game. You know, I got really excited about getting Bayonetta, and I got both of them, but it wasn't really the same because it's just now there.
Here's what's lost, and some people, especially some of our younger viewers, might not have this same kind of memories, but the manual is certainly lost.
Oh,
the nice,
man.
thick manual you'll get in the box was always a big favorite of mine. What's your favorite manual, Alice?
My favorite manual was Donkey Kong Country 1.
Okay.
From back in, I believe, 1993.
Was that because of the contents of the manual, or just that you read it when you couldn't play video games and were reminded?
No, it was super awesome because all of the the pictures in the manual were like perfectly 3D rendered.
Ooh.
And it made me feel like I was playing this like new Fandangle game because, of course, this is back on Super Nintendo. 3D graphics weren't even really a thing yet. And so I was like, oh man, this game's like so 3D, and the background and foreground in the game worked. So I was like, Mom and Dad, this is a good game, but this is also First Blood going down in the jungle on the bottom side. I got so distracted. I apologize, everyone, but that is going to be KONGDOO picking one up. Edge taking that one as the rise is a big deal for KONGDOO Monster, and they're going to back it up as well with this Infernal Drake.
It was very telegraphed, Atlas. That's why I was letting you go on with your nostalgia trip, because it didn't look like Sejuani was going to just walk in with her face outnumbered. KONGDOO Monster showed their hand, walked over into the enemy red buff. They gave it up. Could have given it up fully, but instead they went for the commitment. And you get the double punish, and it's a double Infernal Spawn as well. We already mentioned that KONGDOO Monster have the priority in 2 out of the 3 lanes. This is actually becoming a problem for MVP, and we may be relegated to scaling only options with the Azir and the Tristana.
Well, I mean, it was close to being that anyway. If you have a look at MVP's composition, they did want to make sure that they got themselves to a later stage of the game. That makes it even harder if KONGDOO Monster can get their mid-game plans online as soon as possible.
What I'm trying to tell you is that MVP want to slow it down now, Atlas. There was a lot of action, I know.
So you saying that we need to talk about the manual of Donkey Kong Country even more?
I want to.
Because apparently that gets me distracted and I miss First Blood.
Maybe it also summons action.
Hey, that's true.
You got to try all these things, all the different angles when it's MVP KONGDOO. A question I want to raise, though, is about your specific language. You talked about the fully 3D models in the manual. Are we being, like, very nostalgic about this? Because the 3D in the game, if you try and look at it now, was 3D with the inverted commas going on.
The most inverted commas. I mean, we're talking about a platformer here. Oh dear, yeah, no. It was just much clearer than the 7 pixels that made Donkey Kong.
7? Ooh.
It was at least 7. This was definitely top of the line. New stuff. But I also read that manual about 17,000 times because it was the only game I ever owned. As Beyond, looking for another face check, but this time going to put a ward in first.
Yeah, he'd really like to own his own side of the jungle, and for now that's going to be denied. The only game you ever owned?
Yeah, on my Super Nintendo, it was the only game I ever owned.
Because that was the rental era.
Exactly, I was a serial
There's another thing that our
rentalist.
fans may not remember is that I'm the same. When I had a Nintendo 64, I owned 2 games and rented the rest.
Yep. And I pretty much had Rock and Roll Racing from our local video store hired almost all the time.
Did
I
you
probably
end up
should have
paying?
just bought
Yeah, I was
going to
say.
Yeah.
That's made by a competitor of Riot Games.
Yes. In fact, it's their best game in my opinion.
There you go.
Absolutely fantastic. Got me into commentary as well because their announcer in that game, absolutely amazing. If you guys have no idea what we're talking about, Google it. But here's another gank in the mid lane. There's Shifting Sand's going to get Ian out of there.
I want to compliment Ian because he definitely started the season at what felt like our 10th placed mid laner. He was struggling in with a lot of standard champions. His own champion pool wasn't working for him. His mechanics on Ryze and Azir recently have been on point.
Yeah.
So for him to just seemingly go to solo queue and really level up on his own and just come back and play the same champions in a better way should be complimented for sure.
And it doesn't have a cleanse anymore, but did hold on to that flash. Emperor's Divide going to be on cooldown. Yujun using that as an opportunity to go for this Rift Herald. ADD does spot him out. Is Yujun at the back of the pit here, actually taking a while. Not sure whether we're going to have enough. Yeah, exactly. They're going to pick this one up. Yujun, no health, no mana.
No feast for ADD, though. Smite up on Beyond.
Yeah, it looks like they're not going to do it. Permafrost and Smite going to be enough, but in the end it's Ian that locks it down. And that's just against the run of play, and something KONGDOO Monster shouldn't have let happen.
What the nice thing is, though, this game has actually mirrored our expectations in Champ Select. To zoom back a couple of Donkey Kong conversations ago. And remember, where did we say MVP was strong? Top side, around the Cho'Gath, who has a nice matchup into the Ornn. Every time KONGDOO Monster gone bot side, they found a red buff, they got an Infernal. It's been goodness on the bottom side of the map where they're strong, where they drafted for. They try to make a play where they're weak, which the top side and MVP rightly punish, with the Cho'Gath having lane priority over Ornn. So even though the game hasn't been thrill a minute, it has so far followed the natural scaling of champions. So no fiestas just yet. So far it's actually fitting our expectations for the first 12 minutes.
And I think it's almost doing a better job than that, Smithy, because Ian ahead in farm here in this lane, and Edge, he was the one that managed to pick up that first blood, but still hasn't translated that into any laning advantage against Ian. And we've seen this matchup of Ryze and Azir normally go in favor of the Ryze, but it can skip over to Azir's side if he has a decent time and works on his trading patterns very well here in this mid lane. And Ian, you gave him compliments correctly, because he has played out this laning phase very well, which has evened out the whole map, given us a very interesting sort of topsy-turvy situation, given the lead on top side for MVP and not so much for MVP on the bottom side.
And a lot of the advantages for KONGDOO when it comes to where their champions come together, whether it's in terms of just an overall champion select or how fights will play out, to me are pretty gated around lane assignments, because they have the Ryze, he's able to play the side lanes, a very standard color point we've talked about all season.
Yep.
They need to play this map smartly, otherwise eventually Tristana and Azir will have 3 items. And I feel like that's just better than Ryze and Caitlyn having 3 items. So eventually we're going to get to a point where the inherent champions are going to have a lot of options in the 5v5, and Cho'Gath can feast Ornn or Jarvan in the front line, and they can win front to back. Nice little defensive flash from Secret. The quiet period you're talking about, where Ian has farmed, where Cho'Gath has done his thing, is in service of MVP getting to those item spikes, and that should start to concern KONGDOO. One Infernal be damned.
Yeah. Of course, Ryze is going to be scaling, so he doesn't need to be winning just yet. He wants to pick up that Seraph's Embrace, Rod of Ages. Looks like that Rod of Ages is on his mind now for 14 minutes in.
The best teams kind of, click their fingers and turn on when they need to, when they have the items.
Exactly.
When the comp or the scenario dictates it, they're able to play to that. If KONGDOO just kind of lackadaisically trade farm with the enemy, Tristana's better with items than Caitlyn until 6 items, and even then, sometimes Tristana will win out because of the ability to reposition more reliably. Caitlyn can do some things at 6 items with the traps that Tristana can't, but regardless, it just feels like they scale better with gold, and if it reads 50,000, 50,000, I think MVP are winning if the gold is very even at higher gold values.
Yeah, we've especially seen this with Azir Tristana comps in the past as well, which I'm actually glad you brought it up. Going back to that flash that was able to be gained from Max, you can see the Unsealed Spellbook is in Secret's hands, so no cheeky teleport plays are going to be as easy without that flash dazzle possibility if he's going to get himself around the map and create those opportunities. Eugene here hanging out in the river. Does still have this ward, and warding on the bottom side for KONGDOO, like you say, with that priority, has certainly been easier, but now Beyond is going to put down the Rift Herald, could give them an opportunity to get things worked on.
Very shallow. They have very shallow vision. They want deep vision with the use of it, ideally, but they're kind of using it just to mask their control over the Infernal. So it seems like they're trying to trade 1 for 1. Seems like the trade won't be started, but Ornn's teleporting in. We could definitely have a fight here. A lot of people caught out. Who's flanking who, Atlas?
Yeah, ADD on the wrong side as well, as the Cosmic Radiance very early in this fight is going to come in, but Secret, he's in such a poor position. Explosive Charge should be able to seal the deal in the end, but no, he's going to be able to walk out. Cataclysm comes in, and Call of the Forge God from Roach gets a decent knock-up. Max is going to be the first sacrifice. Secret's still alive, but at very low health on the backline, and ADD just lumbering into the fight way too late means that KONGDOO grab the kill and get themselves into a better position.
It was just well played by KONGDOO, because ADD tried to walk down. He couldn't just use his teleport. If he'd used the teleport, he would have been in formation with his team. Instead, he was headed off, couldn't walk past 3 members. So Infernal already down pre-2000.
Yeah, you can see Pilot, he's moving himself in there. Soul taking a bit of damage, but there we go. Double Infernal now for KONGDOO Monster, and ADD has to flash to get out of the way of the Dazzle. Beyond was back in base. They had no way to contest, but they still didn't want to give it over to KONGDOO for free because they know what it means.
Just a fight well executed by KONGDOO Monster. You noted how early the Cosmic Radiance was. It allowed them to get in formation, and AD couldn't walk past 3 members of the enemy team. Didn't want to go the longest route, so just waited for the action to happen. It just meant that Beyond was caught in no man's land between a rock and a hard place, and they just went down. So unfortunately, because ADD was out of position and the Cosmic Radiance stopped there being an opening pick, it's easy for KONGDOO to turn onto MVP. They get the second Infernal that, with the map control MVP had for the past 5 minutes, looked very unlikely. KONGDOO Monster very much welcomed that, and it'll be a 3rd Infernal in a row.
Man, hot fire for this bottom of the table clash here in LCK. First game day of what is the second last week of the LCK regular season here at OGN.
Still on patch 8.4, as is indicated on the bottom left of your screen. 8.5 expected for next week. Still 8.4.
And you can see things certainly have settled down here when it comes to 8.4 as well in the LCK. Looking forward to when 8.5 comes in, gives us some extra stuff. Pilot takes half of his health bar, but Rocket Jump is a useful ability, and he will make his way out. Vision being gained, but you can see MVP playing very scared towards the bottom side.
Amazing thing about this game is if you compare items, they're almost the same. As all right, Max gonna get.
Yeah, Realm War comes in. That is 4 members. Good ultimate here from Beyond as Max turning it around. Good headbutt onto Eugene, but he cataclysms his way out and then uses the flag and drag. They're gonna kill the cow once again in secret. Walking away with slivers of health every single time, it feels. Oh, Pilot, can he actually get in there? Cosmic Radiance is going to get channeled, but the reset means the Rocket Jump gets him on out of there. That was just a little bit embarrassing. Good vision available from MVP to make sure that they knew he could make that play.
Very nice opportunistic play from Pilot to salvage something, because so far KONGDOO have been moving around with their Rise, not in a 1-3-1, but just using Realm Warp to get better positioning on little skirmishes between them and the enemy team. Ian got no value out of his Nationals Tooth Azir, whereas big value out of the Rise in that fight. So very much appreciate the positioning that KONGDOO Monster have been able to do, but they do salvage something, MVP, picking up their first kill of the game.
Yeah. You also do need to compliment MVP's bottom lane on keeping their tower alive. You saw Caitlyn actually having some free time with the outer turret on the bottom side just then, but it started off with most of its health bar. We've seen a lot of towers falling down. What was it, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
The last time we saw a very similar matchup. Not the case this time around, as MVP's bottom lane has been able to keep clearing the waves, getting Pilot in a good spot. And having that global advantage, especially with the vision control, is something that these compositions that have the Caitlyn early really want to be able to do, because you want to skip that sort of lull in power that Caitlyn almost always has that we've been talking about for seasons upon seasons.
Yeah, the thing about Caitlyn is that when it comes to teamfight damage, just like Tristana, the 0 to 3 item phase, after the BF sword, it feels pretty bad in terms of teamfight damage, but you skip over that by having smart lane assignments, having a Shiv and a BF sword, and just killing minion waves really fast. That is not something that can be overlooked, is that Caitlyn has wonderful wave pushing ability. If she's stuck in lane against Tristana, which has been the lane assignment, they haven't been able to take the turret early enough to move the Caitlyn, then it just ends up trading farm, and Tristana straight up wins that trade. How powerful she is at 3 items. So that's the awkward part, is they haven't been able to take the turret as Caitlyn Taric was expected to do. And that means that Tristana has 2 items, and we're still in the laning phase as the Gathering Storms start to proc.
Yeah, so going to be utilizing that one, especially up against MVP's composition that will want to be taking us as late into this game as possible. Infinity Edge Static Shiv for both AD carries. I feel like maybe 2 items feels a bit better with Pilot having access to the Rapid Fire, but both of these AD carries looking to scale. Rapid Fire Cannon will be highly coveted by both. See Sol keeping item parity, but behind in farm. Wasn't able to make a decent lead as Pilot was back in base.
Going to be Void Staff second for Ian, probably on his next purchase. He's against double Abyssal Mask, so very easy purchase for him.
Yep, probably wanted to go for Leandri's after that, something like that. Seen a few different things opted in for now that we've got a whole bunch of new items. Because Ace in the Hole did so much damage. In goes Eugene though, looking for Ian, who just shifts some sands, gets himself out.
Always that mind game between the Emperor's Divide and the Cataclysm, given that Cataclysm overrides Emperor's Divide, but neither going to be used in that particular trade.
Yep, cute little game of rock, paper, scissors between those two.
If you're KONGDOO Monster, what the next step of the puzzle is to get Red Side Vision, because Red Side Vision both opens up an Infernal take, but also the turret dive bot lane to actually get your Caitlyn out of the 2v2. That's hurting KONGDOO as they're doing well overall. It looks like they're in a big lead with 2 kills up and 2 Infernals. Given the natural scaling of Azir and Tristana, the fact that the laning phase is still going at 21 minutes is advantage MVP.
But KONGDOO Monster now have access to their 2-item Rise, who feels brilliant. Seraph's Embrace transformation is here, so that's why he's moving towards the bottom side. Realm Warp is going to come in very deep underneath the turret as they're trying to guarantee this. That's going to be ADD turning up, but now he's getting surrounded. They've split off the members of KONGDOO Monster, and there's only 4 here. For now, as Roach does turn up, Call of the Forge God. Fantastic knockups as Cosmic Radiance keeps everyone on 3-man Empress Divide, though. And ADD just eats the Taric Edge, going down so incredibly low, but he does manage to clean up Ian. Pilot right on the back end is just going to get smashed on by the Forge God, and the big clump of MVP players is able to get 1 back, but look at this guy getting the double kills, and ADD has to flash to get the hell out of there. KONGDOO Monster find the fight they were looking for, and ADD, he may not even be alive for too much longer either. The slows are coming down, and Soul grabs the well-deserved kill. KONGDOO Monster, where have you been?
KONGDOO Monster in this particular game on point and walking towards Baron. They click onto it right now. The pings are there. Teleport will come in. MVP left Pilot to dry. He jumped in and was assassinated by the Ornn of all people in the backline. They didn't play around their AD carry. 3 lumbering tanks trying to assassinate a Caitlyn was never going to work. And double Inferno probably means a Baron for KONGDOO at 22 minutes.
Yeah, and MVP had an opportunity to make that team fight their own as well. KONGDOO was split. They could have made a decision on one of the duos to take down, but then the Cosmic Radiance timing and the Call of the Forge God was so good. Max is going to turn up, almost gets in there in time for the steal away, but I don't think they're going to be able to get too much, apart from maybe a Roach on his way out. Pilot, rocket jumping forward, there's the Bellows Breath, and Edge is going to be able to at least get Secret out of the fight.
Get 1 kill, but it is on the Ornn who wants to split push, so maybe worth the flash that was expended by Pilot. Slowly, they will push down this mid lane turret. It's definitely not a worthwhile trade for MVP, but if they can get Infernal as well, it's something to speak of.
Yep, Teleport was utilized by Secret, so Roach is still coming off cooldown as well, and this is the first Infernal that MVP are able to pick up.
Do note that Ornn is not gone for a 2nd item Banner of Command, so the first Baron buff is probably going to be about gold rather than objectives, as we finally see the replay. So consider what happens here. At the start, it's even. ADD is unkillable, so he's happy to walk up. The moment this fight changes is around the use of first the Cosmic Radiance that does arm onto Edge, even though it wasn't summoned on him, then the Emperor's Divide, and this is where you think MVP have done a great wombo. But then Pilot's the one you have to track. He's the real damage dealer in this fight when Azir is dead. He goes bot side, and for some reason ADD, Beyond, and Max, and this is with Feast down, slowly walk after the Caitlyn. They're never going to be able to kill her while Tristana is assassinated by Ornn in the backline. That is just not updating your teamfight information and communicating clearly enough. That could definitely have been a 1 teamfight for the side of MVP, but they had the wrong agenda. Now it's KONGDOO Monster still with that Baron, but like we mentioned, no Bannon minions available until now. They actually pick one up.
Yeah, they did find one, so that's going to do a whole lot of damage here to this inner turret. We'll see whether Beyond can actually grab himself some aggro onto that guy. There's a decent rupture onto Edge. He's going to get silenced, but KONGDOO Monster unable to take down the inner turret just yet.
They have Feast, and also Tristana's finally getting the range on at level 12, so they do have some ways to answer a banner buff minion.
Able to build their own turrets as well in the mid lane is handy.
A lot of ways to delay, so the first Baron buff not expected to actually reap too much in terms of structures.
Yep, still only about a minute and a half of that one to go. Rapid fire cannon's done for both of these AD carries. Edge is going to grab that Spellbinder as well, so getting that movement speed happening. Interesting item, haven't seen that one built on Rise personally just yet.
It's been a new item we've seen a couple of times. The actual relative value of it's kind of been unclear. I think Void Staff would have been a really good purchase to at least try to threaten the Cho'Gath, who's super unkillable to magic damage, but for now at least, the Baron will get them 1 easy objective, which is the last of the outer turrets for KONGDOO Monster. They'd love to at least crash an inner to trade off the Baron, but 40 seconds left. It's seeming unlikely.
Yeah, they are going to abandon this bottom lane as well, as Explosive Charge going to help take down these minions. Pilot grabs a whole bunch more money. And scale, scale, scale is what MVP's job is now. But staving off this Baron has been very impressive. One outer turret for a Baron that was won so convincingly is good news for MVP. They got to start being able to win fights. The coordination wasn't there in the last team fight, so if KONGDOO Monster are able to get themselves together, their composition isn't going to get outscaled enough to be able to not deal with how MVP have been playing out these team fights, despite Ian's fantastic Emperor's Divide.
And to keep it simple situation for MVP, they have very good damage if you're free-hitting the same person. If you're taking down a frontliner like the Ornn, Jarvan, maybe even the Ryzel Tarek situationally, that is how you want to play as MVP. The moment that you have Azir and Tristana going in aggressively, that's where things can be turned around. So for MVP, while they don't have massive initiation, just starting things off with an Alistar engage on the front line, Rupture, and then focus fire onto one. Then the resets from the Tristana can allow for the aggression. If they use their aggression early, and then they can be stopped by a re-engage by KONGDOO Monster.
Yeah, MVP's front line just needs to be helping out Pilot. Has been left alone just a little bit. Ian off to the side lane though, answering Edge. Able to get things worked out. Let's get a few of these procs. Wander his way through. He's going to be pretty slippery with the added movement speed that he does have.
Cho'Gath will need a bit of time to whittle it down to around 1200 health, and then he can feast the banner minion. So double banner now updated onto the side of Roach and Secret, and waiting for a second banner, I imagine, to come from Max, although he might just be building for pure engage onto the Alistar.
Yeah, Beyond also has the opportunity to pick that one up as well, if he would like to. Not sure quite where he's going, that Ruby Crystal. Could be an opportunity, but now Inner Turret once again under fire. It's Call of the Forge God just to get them away from it. Rocket Jump expended. No opportunity for MVP to get any re-engages happening, but that's just an easy free turret after the Baron had worn off.
I like the change over to Cleanse from Edge. Usually you stick on Teleport for the majority of a game on Rise, but it's not about side lanes anymore. Got the banner, going aggressive. You're forcing 5v5s.
Yeah, see, Sol does make it through the portal towards his base, as KONGDOO Monster were backing in a terrifying position.
Amusingly, the projectile eventually hits Jarvan and stops his home guards. Very frustrating.
Now it looks like Edge is going towards the Void Staff. Fourth item is an odd one, and Sol getting towards that fourth item position as well. Last Whisper already done. Well, Dominic's Regard should be the option here, given the big, burly, healthy members of MVP's frontline in the Sejuani and the Cho'Gath.
Pretty rare that you see Merc Treads onto an 80 carry, but the high magic damage aside of MVP and just the incidental stuns. You see Merc Treads from Sol. Probably suggests that he's also going to skip over the QSS for even longer.
Yeah, actually, most recently we saw that, I believe, was Ruler building it on the Varus, Wits End Merc Treads being pretty damn good, and then he hard carried the game, so I like it.
I definitely look to Ruler for all my Varus information. He is
yeah.
about resident Varus players.
Ruler and Prey do give us a lot of Varus options. Pilot clears out the minion wave, continues to farm things up. 3,000 gold is the approximate lead for KONGDOO Monster. Nothing at all really in it to give them a solid advantage.
A really nice Baron control for KONGDOO Monster so far. They don't have offensive vision. They can't see people on the entrance to the MVP blue buff, but when it comes to darkness and also the trap line, they are in a very good spot. Waiting for a face check. MVP should be aware of this.
Yeah, Call of the Forge God does come in. They move down, which is exactly where they want to be, as Yujun can't get the Cataclysm because it's a great Rupture from ADD.
The disengage there cannot be overstated. If that Rupture misses, it's a hard commit before Pilot. And actually group, all the threats were not grouped with the team. So that disengages. Everyone takes another breath. 30 minutes into the game, I'm doing a good spot. But MVP with the Rupture buying time to actually group as 5 and clear out the vision that was KONGDOO Monster's big advantage that we just mentioned.
Yeah, now Roach is going to be able to set up another Banner of Command minion here on this bottom side. Does have teleport, and it's going to be MVP. They love doing this. They're going straight in onto the Baron.
They have good secure as well. They know KONGDOO Monster have to walk up.
Yep, Pilot is going to get in here with the DPS. Another Rupture is going to land. Yeah, they're actually looking for it as Ian takes half of his health bar, and Max just keeping everyone in there. The feast is there. And there's the Cosmic Radiance. Only onto 3, though. It's Edge off to the side. Emperor's Divide doesn't do anything as Sol's able to lock down the Azir and Pilot. Great positioning in the backline. He needs to be the one getting the work done as he doesn't predict it. Roach with the Call of the Forge God calling him in the wrong direction. And there are the backs. MVP, they got themselves a Baron, and they managed to get out, losing only 2.
Yeah, and lose 2, and that's the relevant factor. Ian basically lost his life in the middle of a team fight. Could be ordered by the Caitlyn after the disarray of the Baron being claimed by MVP. So worth is what you'd say for MVP, given the map control that KONGDOO had for the majority of this 30 minutes of the start of the game. The shops will come in. They're able to refocus, and if they can get some Baron minions pushing, Justana's ready to siege as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love MVP Barons. They're just the most fun. Don't mind about it, it's just always commit. This inner turret is under fire. Beyond is down here though. They run out of the minions. ADD really needs to be respected on this Cho'Gath. His ability to keep people locked down is very, very strong.
Also even got a Randuin's to try to ignore Soul as much as possible. Not going to go for the maximum damage feast build, you notice. No Warmogs into Gargo's Stoneplate. Very much building the banner and situational items for this particular game. We're going to see MVP with Tristana walk up with the Baron, and I have a feeling that the turret's going to be rolled down a bit more easy for the side of MVP.
And KONGDOO's back timings were just terrible. They didn't move far enough and got their backs cancelled about 5 times.
That's because they were greedy, Atlas. We saw them try to tank up an inner turret, which was a very strange decision. MVP more interested in the ocean, actually, than taking away an inner turret, so it's not going to be something that's heavily punished. But MVP back from base. We still have a minute 40 on the Baron. See if this Baron can actually yield an inner turret, because so far neither Baron buff has done that.
Yeah, and the Dragon priority is actually really exciting, showing us that Elder is really one of these priorities for all of these teams now. Elder buff is just crazy. We're getting into Elder territory as well, as we need to take down this last dragon before we unlock the Elder.
But they like the safety of mid lane with an Azir turret behind them, so starting up.
Call the Forge God, but a nice triple knock-up with the Pulverize from Nax in the backline. It's a bit of chaos, but Edge, he's off to the side. Soul's free-hitting, but so's Pilot. Onto Raptors at the moment, but not exactly a problem, as MVP did manage to take down the tower and move their way out.
An inner turret with their first Baron, and even though Cosmic Radiance is on the front line, MVP's front line is tanky enough to disengage. Now that ultimate is down, they come back in with the bannered up Siege minion with Baron buff, the Bannon as we call it, and they start the siege.
Yep, Pilot does need to be careful. You saw him get chunked for half of his health bar, but Ian's doing so much AoE. Decent rupture, and gets the silence onto Yuja in a secret, looking for an opportunity, but doesn't get one. Bannered up minion is going to be taken down, and MVP, they disengage. Probably wanting to grab a dragon if they can get one, and that bottom lane minion wave is huge. Top lane, the same as well. MVP need to do some tidying up before they go aggressive again.
Meanwhile, KONGDOO Monster need to look at where the minions are and understand now's the time to get vision around the map, because you know that the movements of the enemy team are going to be forced to some degree. They walk top side, get a couple of vision wards down, do your bookkeeping, back away. That was a big transfer in power for MVP, and we already mentioned that we like them in the true 5v5s as the game goes on. Pilot, 4 items, working on his 5th, seems to be QSS into the Mercurial Scimitar. Let's see if this game has truly gone the way of MVP from one of those trademark Barons we always talk about.
Yeah, now Pilot, he's getting to the point where his just attack moving into a KONGDOO Monster team is getting better and better. His front line is massive. Max has been starting the fights where he needs to, and Ian needs to be respected. It's when this front-to-back composition that we've explained a few times here at the LCK, but this is the quintessential one for MVP. Get behind the front line. Max can start the engagements. Beyond has non-committal engage with his ultimate. And Ian's going to be sitting back, getting the Sand Soldiers to do the work, and Pilot doing the same thing with that big cannon.
And they just want to kill the front first. They want to kill Ornn. They want to kill Jarvan. Whoever's in the front line trying to control space for the side of KONGDOO Monster, that's where you start. And Caitlyn will probably be the 5th person to die in a fight because of her range, and that's okay. You can't always kill the enemy's top threat first. Sometimes when you don't have the Zed, when you don't have true backline threat, or someone that can skip past a burly front line like KONGDOO Monster have, you got to go front to back. So they're set up to do that. That doesn't mean that the setup on paper will be translated into the appropriate team fight. It is 8th versus 10th place in the league.
And speaking of skipping, Soul's going to skip the QSS this time around. Looks like Bloodthirster will be the final item for the Caitlyn. Not too many things that he does need to be worried about given the fact that you mentioned exactly how MVP want to be starting these fights. But if he gets caught out and gets imprisoned potentially by Beyond.
I mean, they got bigger problems. If with this front line, Soul is caught out, he should not need a QSS. He's not going to be jumping in aggressively like Pilot will. Situationally in a team fight.
Speaking of jumping in aggressively, that's the ultimate that's going to land. Thankfully, the dash is there. Roach gets himself out. Does use the flash, though, so not going to have access to that in the next fight.
If you know as Caitlyn, you're not going to be focused down. Go the max damage build. Skip over the QSS. Rely on your positioning. And do the damage. Try to answer MVP's team comp. And that's the right call by Caitlyn here. Expecting Gathering Storm on both AD carries. And will be the 4th prot. That's when things go a bit over the edge when it comes to the huge scaling it provides in about 3 minutes' time.
Gets a bit silly. But speaking of time, we've got a minute until that Baron is back up once again. MVP wanted to wrest control back of this top side of the jungle. With no Tracker's Knife and absolutely no other warding items being picked up. We've seen cheeky ones picked up by top laners and mid laners alike. Not in this game, so the map is going to be a little bit darker for both of these teams. Ian now clearing things out. They did manage to get their minion waves back into position. Roach doesn't have his flash, but does have his teleport, giving him the ability to be on this bottom side. KONGDOO Monster actually with a lot of vision focused on the bottom side. You can see all of the wards are very important to look at now that we've moved past the Tracker's Knife meta, because when you've got your control wards on the bottom side, that then means that there's none around that Baron. And
then you always ask the question, what is your ward line doing? Because you put 5 wards in the same pixel, only 1 ward is really contributing. In this game, you say those wards on the bot side are outdated. They're for a previous fight. They were placed a while ago. It's all about updating and moving your vision line. That means that the control ward slot that was always important, now with no Tracker's Knife, is even more important now, because you need that 3 stack on more than just your support and your jungler. Seeing it engage.
Yeah, fight going to be starting. Call of the Forge God comes in as Edge is going to get himself into the fight. Glacial Prison is good, but it's a brilliant knockup from the Forge God. Ian uses his Zhonya's, as that's a lot of damage onto Yujun. Finally, the Azir goes down, but Pilot free hitting on the backline. Massive damage onto Yujun, but it's a really, really good shield to come out. And KONGDOO Monster are moving forward nicely. Max is going to get taken down, and there's a QSS flash from Pilot. Does manage to get it off as Ian goes beyond, blocks it, and keeps the Tristana alive.
It might have ended the game, potentially, if everyone went down. Now it's only going to be a Baron to the side of KONGDOO. One thing to do when you know there's less vision is to use the Realm Warp aggressively. Very nicely done by Edge. It stopped there from being a true front-to-back team fight, because Pilot and Ian were out of position. KONGDOO Monster go forward. They want both the mid lane inhibitor and the Baron.
Yeah, looks like it will be the mid lane inhibitor going down relatively easily. Pilot unable to get rid of any of the minions, and Beyond, he's useless when it comes to stopping this siege against 5 members. So KONGDOO Monster, they're going to take the maximum.
Really seems like no way to contest it. We'll have to watch the replay to fully appreciate how far out of position the threats were. Realm Warp was very well used by Edge in this game. Were critical yesterday of Lava and his misfires for Rocks. They're going to walk up, don't really see the reason to.
Yeah, Call of the Forge God going to come in. That's just going to secure it. Realm Warp is going to get everyone out. Beautifully coordinated there at the back. So a lot of extra items coming in now. 6 for Soul. Make it 6.5 as the Infinity +1 Edge comes in.
Watch the replay and consider that Tristana's seen in mid lane and Edge ults. Beautiful is the synergy for KONGDOO, because they understand that Tristana can't be there. Cho'Gath is going to be late. And all the things we talked about how fights should play out, the woulda, shoulda, couldas of the world, don't matter, because KONGDOO are first to react. They're able to just train down the front line. Soul never even really loses his overheal shield, let alone Bloodthirst or anything like that. Now he's at 6.5 items. They roll in, and let's see what happens. Is Cho'Gath's actually pinging onto the mid lane. I think you're going to run out of minions and turrets pretty fast here, MVP.
Well, there's an Elder Drake.
Needs to respond.
Yeah, Elder Drake is being considered. They've made the call. They're going to go straight for it. And KONGDOO Monster are going to peel away. I guess if MVP wanted to distract, that could be the option. But are they actually going to get here to start the fight? That is just committed to. And the Elder goes down. But will MVP now have the power in the team fight? They're running away. They think not, as Beyond wants to get his buttons back and does get the ult down. Great Stoneblade keeps Roach alive for so long. And there's a Cosmic Radiance. He's survived and gets out. And it's Max who's got no health now. ADD has no health now. Max is actually dead. and somehow KONGDOO managed to get a pick.
Yeah, KONGDOO get really bloodthirsty. They should have just pushed down and taken a second inhibitor. They really wanted to deny the Elder. They weren't in position to contest. They still get the kill because of the arm onto Roach. They can teleport back in, but breaking the base a second time with Azir and Tristana is just not going to happen.
Yep, it's going to be really difficult, and still, that gold lead is absolutely nothing. We're talking about 6 items on most of the carries now on each side, so this gold is going to mean less and less when really it's felt like no one's had a lead throughout this entire game. It's all just about KONGDOO Monster finding the better team fights almost every time of asking. This tower just getting sieged down, the range of the Caitlyn working out so nicely. The bannered up minion doing all of the work.
Alice is back in just a second here, so they'll back away. They're happy to just take the second inhibitor turret and back, but I think you put it very succinctly, Atlas. The lead here is tenuous, and we still haven't seen the combined forces of MVP execute the right team fight. We may never. There's no guarantee they'll be able to pull off the theory. The items continue to pile in, only Liandry's completion short for Azir, who, with really little kill involvement, has been able to finally get decked out. We're already 42 minutes into the game. The promises of the short games of 8.4 have situationally come true, but also there's been situations like this, as that's a 1600 crit to the red buff.
Yep, and that's a gigantic amount of damage availability here for Sol. Has the Molten Edge as well as the Runan's Hurricane that he's picked up. I don't mind that, given the fact that there's a bit of a pile-on strat coming in from MVP, with Max potentially being in his face alongside ADD and beyond. An odd choice, not one we see on Caitlyn too much, just given the range of those bolts not matching up to Caitlyn all that well.
It is 100% crit, Atlas, and that is
yep.
something to be feared.
Phantom Dancer would have been another option, though, in that move.
It's all about, if there's a lot of tanks slowly fighting in front of you, even the incidental damage can be super powerful.
Speaking of incidental damage, this tower isn't going to last very long at all. Baron Minion not going to make it to this last remaining inhibitor turret for MVP, but something that they can be happy about is the fact that the inhibitor survived on the bottom side. Inhibitor coming up very soon as well in mid lane that hasn't been able to get too much extra work done, and we're getting into late game territory for both of these sides. MVP waiting for it to transition over to them having an advantage, but scaling is something that we talk about all the time, but it does assume that we're going to have execution coming out from both teams that are equal.
And also the ideas of mid-game to late game sometimes take a turnaround in late game where other things can be very relevant. Caitlyn, for example, in the late game, at 6.5 items, the traps actually become very powerful for zone control, and also the implied damage and control it provides, more so than just Tristana having slightly longer range at level 18. So a lot of different things to talk about. Banner of Command only being on 1 compared to the 2 on the side of KONGDOO Monster. The Orin item starting to roll in as well. Seeing Rise try his best, but that is the reality of the Banner of Command. And top side, feels like the next Baron and the next Elder will really be the fights that force both teams to fully commit.
Yeah, and it's just a vision line here for MVP along the river. Couple of control wards on the bottom side, but KONGDOO Monster once again having that problem where a little bit outdated when it comes to that vision. Sort of top left side of the jungle will become relevant once again, but a tri-brush towards the top side not going to be useful whatsoever.
You look at KONGDOO, they also have 2 blue trinkets even though they're ahead, which means they just have the ability to put down regular wards from Orin and the Sightstone coming through from Secret, you know, with his improved GP10 items. So when it comes to that, they are pretty low on the regular wards, only spot vision with the blue trinket. They're behind, I think double blue trinket works. I think Rise should probably switch over back to the warding trinket so that he can actually provide more vision. He already plays the side lane pretty well.
We are moving towards our last Banner of Command for MVP, and Ian finally does have those 6 items you were talking about before. Liandry's Torment coming in, and now that it's new and improved, Liandry's feels even better for Ian with all of his consistent damage, getting that max health burn.
10% amp that has been added to it can be very valuable this late in the game. Grievous Wound's not going to be quite as sought after. And that's something that will be lacking, of course, when compared to a Morellonomicon that is kind of competing for the same slot that a Liandry's goes to in most games.
Yep.
Zonia's for potential aggressive play. Probably not going to happen, but I'm just excited to see a full-on fight. We've seen kind of rumors of what a true 5v5 looks like and approximations, but KONGDOO Monster pull off another Realm Warp, maybe we'll never have one. Realm Warp is the ultimate equalizer so far in this game.
Yep. Also, I think we need to have a discussion about Secret as well, who has really been controlling a lot of these team fights. We've been looking at the Cosmic Radiances for how KONGDOO Monster have been able to find success. MVP need to be able to play around how well Secret has been dictating the pace of these battles. Vision being cleared, replaced, cleared and replaced. Pilot wants to find the right fight, but speaking of which, Call of the Forge God starts this one off, gets one knock-up, but it's on to Beyond. He's not too worried as Static Shift procs rocket across both of the teams. There's a Realm Warp. Okay, see you later, KONGDOO Monster. It's going to jump straight onto this Baron. It's getting obliterated. That's one hell of a play. They couldn't even get there. And now the team fight has started. Cosmic Radiance once again going to come in, and MVP need to go for a disengage. It doesn't do anything this time though, as Yujun just sets up the Cataclysm and the re-engage comes down. Ian doesn't make his way all the way in, but Max is going to die. Traded for Yujun, who's finally fallen, and Edge is going to follow. Now we might get the resets from Pilot, who's launching the auto attacks in, flashing forward onto Roach, who can't do anything. Secret now is in trouble as Ian with a massive cleanse. Bit Captain Jack-esque, but this is just going to confirm the triple for Pilot and the victory in the team fight for MVP finally.
47 minutes in, they finally get the team fight they drafted for. Ian doesn't get into the back line, but it's safe enough behind the wall to get the first kill. Soul is alive, but front to back is happening, Atlas. And the back is the only thing alive, and it's out of position, and the game may just end. Yep,
this could be it. They've got a conga line of minions coming in. ADD can tank forever. Soul wants to get rid of these minions and does so quite well as ADD just flashes on top of him. Pilot with all of the damage, and there it is. Ian secures it. It's only Max that's dead, sacrifices his life for his team, and they've got another round of minions. Long death timers.
10 seconds on Yujun, then 10 seconds on Edge. I think the game's over.
Yep. Here come the minions. 4 members here, all of the damage available as ADD just going to walk his way forward. They know that this one's over. That's a Glacial Prison into the fountain, and Pilot, can they get on top of him? I don't think so. He's just going to ignore Yujun. Edge is going to get taken down, and there goes the Nexus. MVP against how this game was going, come back and find the win.
League of Legends can be a very cruel mistress, Atlas. KONGDOO Monster did the right thing the majority of the time, one of the best games they've played, and yet still, they do not pick up a game victory. They go 1-21 in terms of games in the past 22. MVP could not get the fight they wanted. Cosmic Radiance stuffed them so many times. Like you say, Secret was looking like the MVP of this game quietly, but then finally, the ultimate didn't arm onto the Ornn. He got chunked out, and then everyone was trying to move back and forwards to try to disengage the aggro from MVP, and then they truly could fight front to back. Azir and Tristana hitting the same target multiple times. They rolled down, and sadly, it's that old look from the KONGDOO Monster faces. They look devastated because this time they were so close.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that one pick at the start of the team fight for KONGDOO Monster. They weren't able to do that. They went 1 for 1, which meant the 4v4 from MVP, after all of those crucial buttons had been pressed, was just something that they couldn't do. The Tristana really shone at 6 items. Pilot played great that series. Max, the sacrificial play to get that 1 for 1 trade was great. But I just want to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the game. And we were talking about this as a bottom tier clash, things like that, but the team fights were beautifully orchestrated. The game was on a knife's edge. This is a great series to watch thus far, and I'm excited to see whether KONGDOO can actually have a better one and take home the win in Game 2.
Neither team really making huge brain fades meant the game, like you say, did go logically, but in the end, one misplay, or even just a full engage onto Baron, grouping them up, allowed the front to back to happen.
Yeah. So we'll see whether MVP are going to be able to make it a 2-0, or whether it's going to be KONGDOO Monster coming back and showing us that they can actually close out a game. Guys, we are going to have a short break. When we get back, it will be that game number 2.